leading you to it, but bam! JK, changed it up. Also, Abby Jiminez can write heartache just way too damn well, because she had me in my feels. I would fucking punch my dad in the face when he goes to the spa. But, oh my good Jesus God. Well, hello. Welcome back to my channel. Joshana here to talk about some friggin' books that I have read recently. The first one, I finished this in the very end of June, and this was a NetGalley e-arc, The Company of the Wolf by David Wragg. This is book 2 of the Tales of the Plains series, and the little blurb, full of David Wragg's unique blend of humor, heart, and high stakes, The Company of the Wolf is the epic next installment in the Tales of the Plains trilogy. And that's all I'll say because it's the second book. So this series, so far, these first 2 books, I really like these characters. Like, the 2 main characters, Giovanni and Ree, are so great. I just love their dynamic together, and the humor definitely is there in the dialogue between not only these characters, but others as well. And just all the side characters, too, I think are well done and fleshed out and all of that. However, in the first book, I felt this way a little bit, but in the second book, more so, where the plot and the pacing kind of doesn't necessarily work for me as a reader as much as I would like it to. It didn't, like, not work for me. I don't hate the plots or the pacing or anything like that. I don't think there's huge issues with it. It's just the types of plots that aren't like that intriguing to me as a reader, just personal taste-wise. So I don't know if I'm going to continue with the series, despite I think there's just 1 book left. It's a trilogy, everything I know. I just don't think I'll want to reread. Definitely the middle, this second book, The Company of the Wolf, I don't think I would want to reread. I do really enjoy David Wragg's authorial voice, and his just kind of like flow as a writer, I think is really, really good. And his writing is just solid overall. Again, the characters are definitely my favorite element to the series. And I think that's what it is just I know I'm not as much of a character-driven reader as I think these books are. These books are more for more character-driven readers. So if you're a very character-driven reader, I would say probably these will be very much to your taste. That's that. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars. Very, like, fine. It was fine for me. Again, nothing bad about it. I think a lot of people will really, really enjoy this. If you are a character-driven reader, check out The Hunters and go from there, because I liked that one a little bit more too. So next, I picked up the next installment in the Thursday Murder Club series, The Bullet That Missed by Richard Osman, clearly a library copy here. This is the 3rd book in the series, and this series is just a contemporary mystery, not necessarily cozy, but it's not like thrillery at all. It's very much leaning more towards cozy. We're following 4 retirement-aged folks, pensioners, it's set in the UK, who live in this retirement community, this little retirement village, and they are friends. One of them used to work for MI5. She was a spy, and they are just the freaking cutest little group of friends. I love them so much. This book, I think, has been my favorite so far in the series. I am actually caught up now. I have read the 4th book as well. There's going to be, from what I've read online, there's going to be 1 more book coming out next year, and then I think the series will be done. So I'm caught up, and I like the series overall. I don't see myself rereading any of them, except I do think I could see myself rereading this one. Maybe the others, perhaps, if I just feel like hanging out with them. The humor and wit in these is just top tier. Like the British, dry, kind of clever. I took all my tabs out, stupidly. But I really find it very humorous and enjoyable, the authorial voice overall. Joyce is my favorite character. She fucking kills me. Elizabeth is also great. Ron had me in stitches several times in this one. When he goes to the spa, oh my God, I was like, this is my dad if he ever were to go to a spa, like to get a massage and just being so uncomfortable and like, I don't know what to do. This is not relaxing. I'm just tense. So it was, the way it was written was so funny. And Ibrahim is forever just the sweetest soul, and just like such a little old nerd, and I love him. They're just so great. And also the secondary characters, I really liked the secondary characters in this one. I'm about to sneeze, so it might look like I'm crying or tearing up, but I promise I'm not. I'm just like that almost... fuck. Anyway, as I was saying, the secondary characters were also really great. They always are, and in this one, they really stuck out to me. And the plot in this one, I think the reason this one is my favorite is the plot in this one was more compelling to me than the previous two, and then the next one too that I've now read. It was just really intriguing, the mystery was, and also just very entertaining. So this one I gave 4.25 stars. And yeah, I just really, really liked it. Okay. Next is a book that like part of me wants to just do a single review about because I feel like I'm gonna ramble. And that is Part of Your World by Abby Jiminez, also from the library. And this is adult contemporary romance. The summary of this one: after a wild bet, gourmet grilled cheese sandwich, and a cuddle with a baby goat, Alexis Montgomery has had her world turned upside down. The cause? Daniel Grant, a ridiculously hot carpenter who's 10 years younger than her and as casual as they come. The complete opposite of sophisticated city girl Alexis, and yet their chemistry is undeniable. And then I put in external circumstantial forces at play in the form of her parents and their demanding expectations, as well as distance and careers. And then bringing Daniel into her world is impossible, and yet she can't just give up the joy she's found with him either. With so many differences between them, how can Alexis possibly choose between her world and his? So, the TLDR on this is, in the first 5 to 15% of this book, I was seriously leaning toward DNFing, but despite a few things that definitely stuck in my craw, they ended up paling in comparison to the chemistry between these two main characters. It was jumping off the page, and also Abby Jiminez can write heartache just way too damn well, because she had me in my fucking feels throughout this book and crying several times towards the end just from the emotion that the characters were feeling, and like, oh God, these poor people, they're so heartbroken. I was upset. So rereadability, maybe. I don't know for sure, because there were a few things that really just drove me fucking crazy, particularly towards the beginning, but also even towards the end. There were just things that, not necessarily like I thought they were bad writing or the book was bad, but just things that for me on a personal level, I'm like, I can't. So yeah, that's that. So for the characters, the freaking level of charm that primarily Daniel, the male main character, he oozed charm. But I also liked Alexis too. After I posted my review, I often am curious and I go look at other reviews. And I saw quite a few people like really disliking Alexis and being like, she didn't deserve him. And like, I see where they're coming from, but I didn't feel that strongly about her. I thought she was charming as well, but Daniel was like so freaking charming, and them together, oh my God. Like the meme of like, you know, sitting there reading and like kicking your heels and giggling, like that's how I felt. I was like, oh my God, like they're so cute. But, oh my good Jesus God, towards the beginning, Alexis's family dynamic, there's definitely like a toxic ass family situation going on with how her parents treat her. And I know it's realistic, okay? I know. I have had friends who have that kind of a dynamic. You know, female friends where their moms are always like making little snide comments about their weight or about you're not a mother yet, or like just weird little passive aggressive, like nonsense. And like also pressure, like ridiculous pressure put on people to like, you know, live up to your parents' expectations and do what your parents want you to do. And if you don't, you're gonna get fucking kicked out of the family, like that type of shit. And I hate it. I mean, nobody likes it. My family is so like ridiculously the opposite of that. And like, I just cannot fathom my parents ever treating my brother or I that way. They, you know, their expectations for us were like, be good human beings and do good unto the world and treat people how you want to be treated. And aside from that, do what you want. As long as you're not harming others, you're generally trying to be a good person. Like, that's the expectation. Other than that, do whatever the fuck you want with your life, you know? And so I fucking, seeing these family dynamics, like, stresses me out. It deeply stresses me out. Okay, I had to pause for a second and grab my phone, so the angle might be weird now. Whatever, neither here nor there. Back to the book. Yeah, the family thing. It just stressed me out. She broke up with her, at the beginning of the book, she has broken up with her boyfriend of like 7 years and has been broken up for several months at least, and is like going to therapy and stuff and realizing through therapy that he was emotionally abusive. And he was verbally abusive, and she's realizing this, and also he cheated on her. And, like, her family knows that he cheated on her, and she's kind of mentioned, like, that he wasn't the nicest. And, like, literally her dad is just like, get over it. Go to therapy together. Go to couples counseling and figure it out, because he's a doctor, and he's important, and you need to be with someone like that. And I'm just like, I would fucking punch my dad in the face, and my mother would support it. Like, no fucking way. And it just stressed me out. It just stressed me the fuck out. I know a lot of people experience that kind of family dynamic. I can't. And that is one thing that did continue throughout the book and got kind of worse towards the end and just stressed me the fuck out. There also was an element that, to Alexis as a character, she's very privileged, and I mean, it's in the synopsis. Like, she comes from this fucking legacy of money, wealth, like world-renowned surgeons. And my God, sometimes she's like so shocked with like, oh wow, I never thought about how poor people live until I started dating this poor guy. And like, oh, because I now am seeing this guy who's poor living his life in the town of people that he's friends with and how poor they all are. Oh wow, poor people have it hard. I mean, she didn't say those literal words, but there were several moments of her being like, I never thought about this until now. And it just gave me vibes of like a man sexually harassing women, unless it's his sister or his mom. Nobody better treat them that way. Like, not giving a fuck unless it personally relates to you, or not having any awareness of how other people live unless it personally relates to you. And I just find that kind of fucking obnoxious. So, getting into the plot and getting into the thing that in the beginning I was messaging Elle and Roger. I wasn't buddy reading it with them or anything. Neither one of them have read this yet, but I was messaging them like, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. My fucking alarm just went off. This is the most chaotic. Stop, go, stop, go. Anyway, the fucking age gap. I cannot, okay. After finishing the book, that I think is like the parents' toxic thing like stressed me out. But again, I didn't think that was like poorly done or dumb or didn't make sense or wasn't realistic or anything like that. The age gap bullshit fucking annoyed me. It was my biggest qualm with the book overall because it just felt dramatized in a really silly, dumb way. Like, in the very beginning, so she's 38, she goes and like has her little thing with this guy and knows he's 28. And is like freaking out about this with her friend. Like, let me see if I can find. Yeah, she's the type of character who like having a one night stand is like not what she does. So I can understand being freaked out about that. Can't relate personally. But if you're someone who doesn't ever do that, so I get that. She's like, oh my God, I had a one night stand. Okay, freak out. But she's freaking out about, I had a one-night stand with a total stranger who was a decade younger than me. You're 38. Like, he's 28. Like, that's not that big of a fucking deal to me. So, and then she's like, okay, I'd never had sex with anyone who wasn't my boyfriend in my entire life. Again, understandable if you've never done that before, being freaked out about it. And now I just made an exception with a guy I had just met who was almost as young as Neil's son. Neil is her ex-boyfriend. So right then, I was like, how old is Neil? And how old is Neil's son? Because to me, this would indicate that Neil's son has to be 27, 26, maybe 25. I could see saying like 28 is almost as young as 25. But even that, I wouldn't call that almost as young as 25. I don't know. I just wouldn't. I don't know. But maybe, okay? So I'm like, okay, if you were dating a guy whose son is 25, 26, 27, how old is that guy? because he can't be the same age as you. What the fuck? Yeah, he's a decade older than her. So you've been dating a man who's 10 years older than you, and now you go sleep with someone 10 years younger than you, and you're like, oh my God, this is crazy. I'm just like, this makes no sense. This makes no sense that you would be so scandalized by a 10-year age gap when you've been dating a guy for 7 fucking years with a 10-year age gap. And I understand there is a whole element of sexism involved where men who date younger women are seen more positively than women who date younger men, typically. But also, kind of, it's, I don't know, in my experience, in my, like, worldview, the things I see in media, the people I talk to, the friends I've had, the people I've encountered over the years who are in my, like, same-ish age range, I don't know that many people who would see a 38-year-old woman having a one-night stand or dating a 28-year-old and be like, oh my God, you scandalous whore, like, versus a 38-year-old man sleeping with or dating a 28-year-old woman. Like, I don't know that many people that would be, like, more freaked out about the woman dating this. Like, I just, at a certain age, that the age gap of 5 to 10 years isn't that big of a fucking deal. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think after the age of, like, 25, 26, 27 and up, who fucking cares? Nobody cares. Like, I don't know. I just found it so silly that she was like, oh my God, 10 years, a decade? Your ex-boyfriend was a decade older than you. What are we talking about? Like, it just made no sense. And then fucking find out that the son, Neil's son, who is this 28-year-old is almost as young as, is 22. I'm sorry. I don't think that 28 and 22 are the fucking same. When I was 28 years old, I would not have wanted to date a 22-year-old. And not because I think it's gross and you're a pervert or it's illegal or anything, but just because I'd be like, dude, the whole, like, age bucket thing, right? Like, when I was 23, I wouldn't have been interested in an 18-year-old. Because you're a teenager, and, like, even though you're legal, and I'm only a few years older technically, at that point, even, like, a 4-year age gap just feels like the maturity, where you're at in life, tends to be wildly different. And same with 28 years old, 22. The age gap is only 6 years. It's not that big of a gap when you're older, but, like, at that age, you're in college still at 22, typically, or just getting out of college. Versus 28, most of the time, you're on your way to establishing yourself as an adult, if not already well established as an adult and in a career or whatever. I'm like, no, no one I fucking know or have ever known in my adult life, like, or refer to 28 as almost as young as 22. No one would say that. No one would say 28 is almost as young as 22. It's not. And, like, yeah, 28-year-old versus 18-year-old, what the fuck? That's a fucking weird age gap to me. The maturity level is way off. But 28 to 38, yes, you still might be in different places in life. It's still a 10-year gap, and that's still kind of a point where there's enough of a difference in age that you might not be totally in the same place, or one of you might be more ready to settle down than the other, or might be more established in your life as an adult than the other. But, like, there's less of a chance of it being a huge difference, right? And then you get to, like, 38 and 48, and it's like, who fucking cares, you know? I don't know. I just found it so dumb that she kept freaking... And mind you, the 28-year-old man she's referring to is the mayor of a town, runs a fucking business, is clearly a mature, like, adult, settled, like, he's not out here gallivanting around party boy, like, fucking fuckboy bullshit. He's just, like, a grown-ass fucking man. I was like, shut up. She literally at one point was like, he's just a baby. Multiple times she referred to him as, like, basically a baby. A 28-year-old grown-ass fucking man is not a baby. Nobody I know would ever, in my age range, would ever refer to a 28-year-old as practically a baby. Not seriously. Maybe, like, being dumb, joking. I don't fucking know. But, like, not literally. Like, 25... 22, yeah, you'd be like, oh God, you're, like, practically a child, essentially. But, like, 28, again, especially a mature 28-year-old who's, like, a fucking grown-ass settled adult. Like, what are we talking? I just kept being like, what are we talking about? What are we doing? And if the age gap had developed into like the big reason that we can't be together, I think I would have DNF'd. It did eventually kind of like fizzle out, and it was more focused on just like their differences in like their lifestyle and like where they come from, and also career-wise, like literally her needing to be 2 hours away in this city and him not being able or wanting to move. And even if he did, like her just being like, he won't fit in with my lifestyle and the people I know. That became more of the like reason we can't be serious. And so I was like, okay. It ended up not like ruining the book. It fizzled out mostly towards the end. Like she wasn't so fucking worried about it anymore. And I was like, thank fucking fuck, because I was gonna lose my mind. And like, I'm sure there's so many people who are gonna be like, no, you just didn't understand. Like, I don't care. I think it's stupid. By the end, it had only gotten mentioned, like in the last like half of the book, I wanna say, I think it had only gotten mentioned like maybe once or twice as like a kind of secondary or tertiary reason of like why my family won't accept him. Like this reason and that reason. And like, he is so much younger too. So that made me happy. And then for the plot stuff too, the third act breakup thing, I thoroughly appreciated that this third act breakup was not some like stupid ass misunderstanding, miscommunication, nonsense as it so very often is. It felt very realistic and authentic. It was external thing, you know, and my God, I felt for them so hard. My heart was like broken with them. And I will say with the themes and stuff, there's obviously the toxic family bullshit, familial expectations and pressures that stressed me out and everything. And then abusive romantic relationships. For our main character, again, it was like emotional abuse, some like verbal stuff. There was a side character who was dealing with more intense physical abuse. Not that that is more intense than that. I'm just saying she was dealing with intense physical abuse. And so there was a lot of conversations about abuse happening. And there were parts of it that I really thought were very, very well done. This one part, hold on, let me see if I can find it. So Alexis is speaking to this other woman who is in the midst of a very physically abusive relationship. She's telling her, like, I was with someone who was emotionally abusive. And this other woman shakes her head and she goes, but you're so smart. I scoffed, as if smart has anything to do with it. I dragged a loose hair on my cheek with a finger and stared out into the street. I saw this documentary on a tsunami once, I said. When it's coming, it pulls the water away from the beach, pulls it lower than sea level so the ocean floor is exposed. You can see all the sand and shells and coral, so people go in to look at it. And then the tidal wave comes and it's too late to run. It already has you. I looked her in the eye. They lure you in. They make you feel like you're the best thing to ever happen to them. Like you're the most special woman in the world. Like you are seeing something rare. But that's the trap. It's how they get you close enough to drown you. And I fucking loved that because that was something I had to kind of like grapple with in my own situation of being in an abusive relationship where I'm like, I'm not that girl. Like you have the stereotype of like the battered woman who's this very timid, you know, quiet, just pushover doormat and just like allows this to happen to her. I'm very outspoken, feisty. I'll get in your face. Like, you want to come at me, bro? I'm going to come at you back. And I'm smart and I have emotional intelligence and like I know what you're doing. And even when I was in it, I knew what he was doing, right? So it's like, how the fuck did you stay? Always being like, I would leave. It's so easy to say, oh, I would leave if someone ever did that to me. If I was dating someone for 5 years and they said that to me, I would leave. Easier said than done, man. You don't know until you're in it. And I had to grapple with that of like, how did I get sucked into this, you know? And like, that is how. The manipulation, the emotional and mental manipulation is fucking real. And so I really liked that. However, there was one element of this kind of conversation that I don't know how well it sat with me. It's in the very beginning when after Alexis has slept with and had this one night stand and like the best sex of her life and like this guy that just was like all over her and like so sexually desiring her clearly. And she sticks up to her ex and it's like the first time she's done it and her best friend is there and witnesses and it's like, oh my God, you just told him off. Like what the heck? And she she literally says that it is because she had sex with this guy who wanted to have sex with her and realized that men do desire her and want her, and she legit says that that did more for her than months of therapy. And I just don't know that I love that message of you'll actually feel better about yourself after abuse once you get proof that some other dude wants to fuck you. I just was like, I understand what we're saying here, and I do get that that can like kind of like bolster that confidence, right? You've been, again, the verbal abuse and like belittling was a big thing in her situation, and like I get that that can like really do a number on you. And so even with therapy and like working on yourself, maybe it was just like that added boost of like solidifying it, right? Like, okay, yeah, no, it is true. I get that, but I still just was like, I just felt weird about that conversation. I don't know that I love that messaging so much, but it wasn't a big deal. It was like one little thing and whatever. But yeah, anyways, I quite enjoyed this. Very much one of my favorite contemporary romances, for sure. But the element of the family like stressing me out, and then the whole fucking age gap dramatization did like bring down my overall enjoyment a little bit. I ended up giving this 4.25 stars. So very high for me, again, in general, but especially for a contemporary romance. And the favorite character, my favorite character in this, aside from Daniel, he was great, but her best friend Bree, oh my God. And I was like, maybe this is, I was telling Roger and Elle, I'm like, she's my favorite, but also she reminds me so much of myself. And so that feels conceited that I'm like, oh my God, she's great. I'm like, she's me. But like literally, where is it? God, she was fucking cracking me up. Yeah, okay. And I was like, this is me with one of my best friends in particular who is a little bit more like with dating and stuff, like similar to Alexis of like not often fooling around with dudes unless she's gone on X amount of dates with them, like that type of thing. And like certainly not a one night stand type of girl, not that type generally. And so like this just so reminded me of conversations I've had with this friend, like Bree being me. She's like, what am I even doing? What does he have in common with my friends, my family? This is Alexis. And then Bree, she looked me dead in the eye. You know you can just fuck him, right? I gasped. I'm serious. You do not need to marry this man. You can just use him for sex. You are aware of this option? I was like, oh my God, that's literally me. That's me in so many conversations I've had with her. All that to be said, I'm very, very excited for the next book. I bought it, yours truly, because Bree is the main character in that one. So I'm like, I hope I like that one even more. So maybe there will be another adult contemporary romance that I like even more and give a 4.5? Dare I say, maybe a 5? We'll see. But anyway, yeah, as I suspected, I ranted about this a little bit, but I did like it. I liked it, I swear. I think it was very well done. I just could not get past the stupid, like, oh my God, he's 28, he's a baby. Like, shut up, shut up. I once again had to get up and check my phone, so the angle might be different. Next book, though, my God. I don't know how long I just talked about Part of Your World, but it feels like 12 years, probably just because I paused. But the next book was not a direct recommendation, but Monet at Monet Read. She talked about this book a while ago, also from the library, and I actually ended up getting the audiobook, I think from the library, and pretty much listened to it solely on audio, so why I got the physical, I don't know. But yeah, this is an adult mystery thriller mystery, right? Yeah. Is that what it's categorized as? It's just categorized as mystery, but it's like thriller, mystery, like domestic thriller kind of vibes. And I don't read a lot of that, but I do like it. Like Gillian Flynn, love. I read all of Gillian Flynn's books years ago, love that. And like, I just, that like vibe, but I don't pick it up a lot because it is typically, it's very dark and can be kind of creepy sometimes, but also just kind of like depressing, cynical, like the vibes are dark and tense, and I don't always love that. But the way Monet talked about this one, I was just like, all right, I gotta check it out. And I'm so glad I did. The little blurb summary, Simon and Vicky couldn't seem more normal. A wealthy Chicago couple, he a respected law professor, she an advocate for domestic violence victims. A stable, if unexciting marriage. But one thing's for sure, absolutely nothing is what it seems. The pair are far from normal, and one of them just may be a killer. There's more in the synopsis, but I think that's all you need. Don't read more. The TLDR, I put, what the hell? This was absolutely a page turner full of twists and turns, and legitimately at one point made me gasp out loud. Like, I was like flabbergasted. At one point in particular, I was just like, what? Holy shit, wait a minute, hold on. So rereadability, thrillers, suspense aren't typically rereadable for me, I don't think, and this is not an exception. The joy of the reading experience with books like this is not knowing what is coming. So once you do know, it kind of ruins it for any reread, at least for me personally. Like even like Gone Girl, which I loved, like I didn't keep my Gillian Flynn books just because I was like, I'm literally never gonna reread these, you know? I'm not. Like I'll rewatch the movie, but that's just a quicker thing to dedicate time to, you know? The writing was fine for me as far as the authorial voice and everything, use of language, the tone was there. The atmosphere was there. And that's another reason I think the rereadability, like cozy mysteries, it's a similar thing where like I know I might forget who did or didn't, but like I don't really care because for those, I love the characters. Like I'm thinking of the T.E. Kinsey series, the Lady Hardcastle. I just love those characters. So like I definitely think I'll reread those because even if I remember the whodunit of it all, I don't really care. I'm just there because like I just want to hang out with them. Usually mysteries like this, they're terrible characters, like terrible people, usually. They're not like the most fun. You don't want to like hang out with them. So that was the same here. And like, I know they're all terrible people actually, but I actually really liked Vicky, the main female character. Like, I liked Vicky. Simon I also didn't hate, and I probably should. Like, this book is diabolical. Like, this mystery, everybody in this book is like diabolically fucking insane. But I still kind of liked him. And I do think that Vicky was like a pretty well fleshed out character. More so, I think, than some of the others. So maybe that's why I liked her. But yeah, the plot twists and turns had me reeling. I thought the plot was compelling and interesting. It absolutely kept me guessing throughout. I started to suspect one element of like the master plan that I was seeing come together. But I think I was meant to start suspecting it, because then there was new information that we got that made it even more complex than it previously was. So it was kind of like, oh, you get it, right? I'm kind of leading you to it, but bam, JK, changed it up. And that happened a couple of times. And I'm sure under scrutiny, there are probably several elements to the plot that like don't add up or are a bit of a stretch or something. But I didn't give a fuck. I had a fun time reading this. And the audiobook is like a cast of characters, so every character is narrated by like a different person. And I thought it was a really good audiobook. So very much recommend. I gave this 4.75 stars. Not quite 5, just because it's very long. It kind of needs to be, but I can see the argument of like maybe in places it could have been cut down a little bit, but I didn't care too much. I really, really liked it, so definitely recommend. Then I picked up The Longest Autumn by Amy Avery, and this was sent to me either by the author directly or by the publisher. The author reached out to me though, so thank you to the author for reaching out, and I can't remember if she directly sent it to me or if she was like, I'll get with my publisher. Thank you, at any rate, to the author. And this one is a shorter one, and it's like a mythology, fantasy thing. Tyrn is one of 4 humans rigorously selected to usher the turn of the seasons into the mortal world. Every year, she escorts the taciturn god Autumn between the godly and human realms. Autumn's seasonal stay among mortals brings cooler weather, changing leaves, and the harvest of apples and gourds until winter takes its place. This year, the enchanted mirror that separates their worlds shatters after Tyrn and Autumn pass through, trapping both of them in the human realm. As the endless autumn stretches on, crops begin to fail, and the threat of starvation looms. Away from the magic of the god's home, Tyrn suffers debilitating headaches that return with a vengeance. Worse, Autumn's extended stay in the human realm turns him ever more mortal and vulnerable, stirring a new forbidden attraction to Tyrn. That's the general vibes, okay? And I actually ended up DNFing this. I got to 29%, and it wasn't for any big reason. There wasn't anything, like, there wasn't something sticking in my craw, like, driving me crazy, like, oh, this is dumb, or anything like that. The writing, I thought, was really good. It's just a book that is very atmospheric, and if you've been here a minute, you know, I don't tend to vibe with that. Not atmospheric in the way that, like, Nevo is with, like, magical realism, like what's even going on, like not like that, but just like vibes. There's a plot going on for sure. I mean, based on the synopsis, you can tell there's a plot, and like I liked the characters, the side characters, and we were seeing like some dynamics. But overall, I think the pacing, it was just a much more slower paced story. I don't think it was like bad pacing. I think it's intentionally just a slower pace, like part of the atmosphere of it all. And it just wasn't working for me all that well. I wasn't getting gripped by it, you know? I definitely see there being an audience for this. If that sounds appealing, if you are a reader who likes that kind of like fall, slower, chill, but like we're still trying to figure out this mystery, I think you would probably enjoy this. So I would recommend. It just was not the book for me as a reader, unfortunately. And I think actually I will leave it there since I talked so long about part of your world. I will leave it there, and the next few that I have I'll save for the next recent wrap up. If you have read any of these or are intrigued by any of these, let me know. It was pretty good round. Had some real hits. And really not any misses, because even the one that I DNF'd, like I said, I wasn't pissed about it or like, fuck this book or anything like that. So pretty chill, and then with some really great ones in here. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.